Hey guys, today I would like to give you my absolutely favorite practices to build naturally a pretty good charisma. So let's start right with the first one. In my opinion, the first one is dancing. Pick the right dance class, whether it's salsa, Latin dances, rock and roll, African dances. It doesn't really matter as long as you move your body, as long as you learn to be in touch with your body in movement and you are able to dance with partners, dance with other women, and start to touch, bring that sensuality and learn that contact. It's something that gives pretty quickly a pretty good level of confidence when it comes to communication, not necessarily inside, but when it comes to interaction, this is something that teaches pretty quickly how to interact with women. The second I wanted to touch on is traveling. Traveling is amazing for many reasons, most importantly because it takes you outside your comfort zone, but most importantly, when you travel, you're basically forced to meet new people. You are forced to communicate. You are forced to try to speak the language of someone that doesn't speak yours. And I can tell you from personal experience, from having traveling in around 25 countries in the past 2 or 3 years, that's one of the best experiences ever. On top of that, the, usually the most unexpected things happen when you travel, and therefore it gives you a huge baggage, a huge luggage full of stories that you can bring with you on dates, with you in any kind of communication, and it can emphasize your natural traits and just your life story. The first practice that I want to tell you about is acting or improv classes. And this one is pretty obvious. It directly teaches you how to act and communicate, but most importantly, it is something that teaches you to not take yourself too seriously. Another one would be comedy. So, acting, improv, which are both very effective, or comedy, because it teaches you to laugh, it teaches you to smile, it teaches you to play. And something that is incredibly powerful and charismatic, especially about men, is when they stand out from the other crowd by being able to be a little bit childish and play, not take themselves too seriously, not take life too seriously. And that's the precursor to anything that has to do with male to female polarity, because it gives a level of smoothness to any um, eventual sexual communication that will be, because it is done with you being able to take different roles and being able to not be too judgmental and just not take yourself or something that she will say too seriously. The fourth practice that I want to give you to build pretty quickly a good confidence is learning. And learning is a little vague, of course, but this can be done through reading, learn a new skill, play an instrument, learn a new language. Just build a skill that is new. Why? Because every time you prove to yourself that you can do something that you haven't done before, you also prove to yourself that you can grow and you can um, keep expanding your skills and levels, and this naturally leads to an increase of confidence, because obviously the more tools you have in your tool belt, the more easy it is to adapt to a situation and to calibrate, because you're also going to meet people from a different environment. Let's say if you meet people that go to the library because you're taking a reading class, for a speed reading class for 3 months, let's say, you're going to meet a different crowd than when you go and learn Krav Maga, for example, or one of those dancing classes that I told you about. This one is a little bit more generic. So these four practices, I probably forgot some of them, but these ones are basically the ones that I believe are extremely quick in delivering results, that will give you a pretty good charisma. I will mention the final one that I just came up with, and it's anything in which you interact with other men. I talked about dancing, how you communicate and touch and interact with women, but there is another level that is important for communication, it's how you deal and how you interact with other men. And this one is pretty obvious, from the fact that, if you were the only man on the planet, every woman would compete for you. So the problem, and why you might struggle with women, or why you might be unconfident or insecure about your value, it's basically because we live in a world where we have to compete with each other as men. And so, learning to have a very strong position among other men is also something that will teach you how to be a great leader. For me personally, it has been playing soccer. I started really down at the bottom, by being a player that was not really appreciated. I was pretty fat, I wasn't talented, I was a goalkeeper, so I had a lot of responsibilities, and I wasn't really the most social or funny or crazy in the team. So when I started to play soccer, I was pretty much one of those that didn't really have many friends. But as I pushed myself and I got determined to master that and improve myself in that area, well, what happened is I slowly started to build more respect, and I started to be able to lead, and I became captain in certain teams, and I had a stronger role, and I learned to just deal with other egos of men. And this is something that is highly important when it comes to the real life dating, because you are always gonna be in a position when you will be among other men. This also creates an aura about you that is something that women can sense, that you are someone that among other men knows how to deal with it. All right, so this was the topic of the day. I see you tomorrow.